A late kickoff for Manchester United are, of course, travelling to Turf Moor to face Burnley Football Club. They are fresh off a defeat in the Champions League against Bayern Munich. Manchester United lost that game 4-3 in a very, perhaps the result doesn't reflect the way the game went, Timothy, in this particular one.
I'm struggling to hear you say 4-3 because I didn't see 4-3 in that game, Tony.
It was interesting.
It looked 4-3. It is 4-3 as the final result, but the performance looks maybe 7-0.
It shows a wider gap.
Yeah, there was a wider gap. And if you watch the Champions League game, I think Bayern Munich got the 2 goals and then just were teasing Man United around.
It looks like
if you can get a goal, I can give you another goal. So they totally mocked Man United, if I'm to use the right English.
We watched Bayern Munich last week against Leverkusen. That game ending in a 2-2 draw.
Yeah.
Leverkusen giving their all, and that game showed a lot. If the Manchester United coach was watching that game, there seemed to be a lot of loopholes, especially at the Bayern defense. It can be tried if you come well prepared.
That there is not the strongest Bayern side we've ever watched.
100%. And so I was surprised with Manchester United's performance.
You see, if you look at the result without watching the game, you might think Man United were very decent. But if you watch
scintillating.
If you watch that game, Tony, you would see how poor Man United have become.
What has gone wrong, Timothy? And we talk about Eric Ten Hag and eighth ball and all the things that he's been trying to do, the signings that he's brought in. Unfortunately, now Sancho and Anthony, we know, are sidelined. Yeah. But he's brought in now Onana in the goal. He has brought in Mason Mount. He's brought in Rasmus Højlund, almost 200 million on only those 3 players. Yeah. You expect to see some changes on the pitch. It hasn't yet translated. What's going on?
Tony, if you say what's going on, we've talked about what's going on for the last 10 years. I think ever since Ferguson left, we've been saying, what does Man United need to rebuild? They've changed coaches. They've had phases of players come and go. But the results have stayed the same. So I think it's now just beyond the players or the coach. I don't want to talk about maybe the hierarchy because it's the players who have to determine the results. So
these are decent players, team.
These are very decent players. They could even go for the title on a good day, but they seem to be guys who are so soft and down tools. You watch that game against Bayern, the guys looked lazy. Even the 4th goal, we're talking a lot about Scott McTominay tracking back, but if you paid attention, Casemiro failed to run. He just watched the young kid run across him and score the 4th goal. And those are some of the mistakes that you think maybe the team totally has down their tools.
We talk about perhaps the issues that they might be facing, but we also know that the coach has been facing a lengthy injury list. Lately, Rafael Varane has been missing out in the defense. Luke Shaw is out for an extended period, but Varane might be back for this particular fixture. That's the positive news that the Manchester United hierarchy has given us. We also know that perhaps Mason Mount, who has been back in training, might be given a chance in this particular game. How does the coach approach a team like Burnley that has only 1 point from the first 5 games, only the point that they picked up against Nottingham Forest? This is the kind of fixture where we expect Manchester United now to perhaps change some tactics, show a bit more aggression, show that they are really in it to win it.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Tony. The first thing is to bring back those injured players who have recovered back to starting lineup. I think Varane, Mount must play that game. Højlund must play at the front because
he got his first goal against Bayern.
He got the first goal, but that was overshadowed by the result itself or the performance of the game. So bring back your key players. I think Victor Lindelof and Martinez, the partnership
has not worked out so far.
So bring back Varane. He looks better with Martinez. Then just deploy maybe Mount for the energy. Just try to bring back people who can track the ball box to box. In Mount can do that. And then try to have a word with Rashford and Højlund to maybe get a partnership because there are a lot of movement the two can do, but seems they are not passing the ball to each other. That is causing it. But like you've said, if Man United cannot win against Burnley,
it spells a crisis.
It's crisis.
It now spells a crisis because this is a Burnley team. If you look at Burnley, Timothy, like we've said, they've only got 1 point so far from the first opening 5 games. And Vincent Kompany has been still praising his team. He's liking what he sees, how they're adapting to the Premier League pace. But when you look at their team, they don't seem to be having any key additions, any key players that can change things around. I think they only have Jay Rodriguez as the only perhaps more experienced player in the Premier League. So it looks like a grim team. This is a team that Manchester United should be looking at and saying, this is when our season perhaps starts. We need to turn things around. 13th is not good enough. We have only 2 wins in 5. And of course, the other 3 wins have been lost by big margins.
Yeah.
So there has to be a fix at the back as well. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, we now know is also out. So we'll perhaps be expected to see Sergio Reguilon on the left and then Dalot. And number 2.
Reguilon has done a decent job.
Dalot didn't play particularly well as well against Bayern Munich. We saw the first goal that was scored. They easily ran over him. Musiala.
Yeah, you're right. Dalot didn't play well, but the positive is, I think, on Reguilon. He has been decent.
Could have been the play of the match
just
against Bayern.
Because
for
Man
Man
United is just on the losing side all the time, so you don't realize his performances. I think he's been good, but looking at Burnley, they had a red card in the game against Nottingham Forest, so I think they will struggle in that department. It's a good, decent number forward there for Burnley. But again, this is a team that swept out all the teams in the championship last season. Then coming to Premier League, they are hardly playing any football, picking any points. So they can look at Man United and see that this team has been hurt by
It's wounded.
It's wounded. Everyone can actually capitalize. And I think that is the attitude company must impose onto his players.
Especially being at home.
Being at home. And if they get the first goal, I think they'll be able to down Man United.
Very, very interesting. That game coming at 10 p.m., of course, after those exhaustions in the Champions League that Manchester United had to take on. They couldn't play it as an early kickoff, so it's been pushed to 10 p.m. in the night. Don't miss that, 10 p.m. East African time. What's your prediction in this one, Timothy?
Tony, I'm struggling to see how Burnley will win this game, but I'm also struggling to see how Man United will win this game.
Man U has what it takes.
So I've gone for a 2-2 draw.
Very big prediction and bold prediction from Timothy for that one. I think Manchester United, this is the kind of game that Eric Ten Hag will be telling his players, this is not even about me anymore. You guys have to show what you're made of. I think Manchester United can win this. I don't see any goals for Burnley in this one. I've gone for a 3-0 win for United.
Well, Tony, you said 3-0. I don't know who scores for Man United. But
Højlund, Rashford and Mason Mount. We'll be back with a Super Sunday. Don't go anywhere.